There's a place that locals don't talk about anymore. A stretch of land where the wind moves differently, and silence doesn't feel empty, it feels aware. They call it Raven Hill. Most pass by without noticing it at all, but those who do never quite forget. It's one of those names you only hear in whispers, the kind that slip into late-night conversations or fade behind nervous laughter. Some say it's just a story told to keep kids from wandering too far. Others swear the hill itself listens. What you're about to hear isn't a legend. It's a pattern traced through decades of quiet disappearances and strange sounds carried on the breeze. These aren't tales crafted to frighten you, but to remind you that sometimes silence holds its own kind of voice. And lately, Raven Hill has been speaking again softly, but persistently waiting for someone to finally listen. T began with a man named Daniel Hurst, a quiet, solitary hiker who preferred the forgotten paths no one else bothered to tread. Locals would see his old green backpack on weekends, moving up the slopes of Raven Hill, vanishing into the tree line before dusk. He said the place made him feel peaceful, like the world stopped rushing the moment he crossed its border. But peace has a way of turning to unease when silence starts sounding like something else. According to his journal, the first time Daniel heard it, he thought it was wind slipping through the grass, a faint hum that rose and fell like breath. Yet, as the days went on, he began to notice patterns, cadence, tone, rhythm. The whispers came in pairs, always when he was alone, always behind him. He wrote that they never startled him at first. They simply made him feel watched, not threatened, just observed. The last entry before he disappeared was dated October 3rd. His handwriting looked rushed, almost trembling. They're not echoes, they're waiting. When search teams went looking, they found his campsite perfectly intact. Tent unzipped, fire still cold but clean, boots lined neatly by a rock. His phone lay beside his bag, recording. Investigators expected to find static, maybe a gust of wind brushing the microphone. Instead, they heard something else, a faint whisper, looping through the night like a phrase repeating itself. Most dismissed it as interference, but those who listened closely swore they could hear words, something like a name. No body was ever found, only the phone. Yet what unsettled people most wasn't Daniel's disappearance, it was what happened the week after. Hikers began reporting the same phenomenon, whispers rising and falling in the same rhythm, always at the same spot near the ridge. The sound wasn't directional, it came from everywhere, like the hill itself was breathing words through the mist. By the second week, park officials had closed off the trail. No announcement, no statement, just a quiet sign nailed to a rotting post, area closed maintenance. Locals knew that sign meant something else. Maintenance didn't happen out there. Nothing did. Rumors spread quickly. Some said Daniel's voice could still be heard calling faintly in the fog. Others claimed the sound mimicked whoever listened the longest. A few dared to test it standing alone at the ridge. None of them stayed long. There's a recording, unofficially circulating online, said to be from one of those who tried. It's mostly silence until minute 4. Then, faintly, you hear two voices, low and overlapping. The first is unmistakably male. Tired. The second repeats him half a second later. Like an echo with intention, experts dismissed it, of course. audio per wind tunnels, the mind stitching random sound into meaning. But even now, those who live closest to Raven Hill still lower their voices when they speak his name. They say the air changes when you do. Daniel Hurst was never declared dead, just missing. And maybe that's for the best. Because if you go to Raven Hill on a calm night, and you listen not just here, but listen, some say, you'll notice it too. That subtle shift in the air, that rhythm beneath the wind. You'll think it's your own breath at first, or maybe the trees swaying in sync. But if you wait long enough, if you stay perfectly still, you might hear someone else breathing beside you. And if you listen closer, you might hear your own name whispered back. At the base of Raven Hill sits a town most maps forget to name. Just a cluster of worn-out houses, a diner with a flickering neon sign, and a gas station that still uses analog pumps. The people there live quietly, deliberately, like they're trying not to draw attention. If you ask about the hill, they'll either change the subject or give you a practiced smile that never reaches their eyes. It's not fear exactly, it's habit. They've learned not to mention Raven Hill after dark, not in conversation, not in prayer, not even as a joke. It started years ago when a farmer claimed the voices followed him home. He said he'd wake at night to the sound of whispering outside his window. Words he couldn't understand, but somehow knew were meant for him. By dawn, the whispers would stop, leaving only the sound of wind brushing through the corn. He moved away 2 months later. No one ever took his house in the diner. There's an old woman named Clara who still remembers when Daniel Hurst went missing. She says she saw lanterns moving along the ridge that night, 3 of them, swaying in perfect rhythm. She doesn't talk about it much anymore. The last time she did, she swore someone whispered her name as she walked home. Even though the streets were empty, there's also a boy, maybe 10 years old, who tells a story none of the adults dare to correct. He says the Whisper Man lives on the hill and calls people by name when it's time for them to leave. His mother laughs it off, but her voice shakes every time he mentions it. The locals don't correct him because every generation seems to have its own version of that story, and each time someone new goes missing. When the local sheriff was asked about these disappearances, he called them coincidences. People get lost all the time, he said in an interview that never aired. But weeks later, he too vanished. His cruiser was found near the old trailhead, engine still running, radio on. The dispatcher log ended mid-sentence. I think I hear, then nothing but static after that. No one tried to investigate again. The town grew quieter, as though speaking about it might invite something in. Windows stay shut at night. Dogs are kept indoors. And the road that once led up to Raven Hill is now overgrown with weeds. Yet sometimes, when the wind drifts down from the ridge, people say it carries voices, soft, overlapping, almost conversational. The story of the lost expedition began like most modern ghost hunts do, half thrill-seeking, half content creation. A group of 4 amateur investigators from a small YouTube channel decided to explore Raven Hill one summer night, hoping to capture real paranormal activity. Their plan was simple: set up cameras, record for 12 hours, and turn it into a viral series. They called it Whispers, the truth behind Raven Hill. In the beginning, everything felt routine. The group filmed their arrival at dusk, joking about the rumors, showing off their equipment, infrared cameras, EMF readers, and enough batteries to last until morning. One of them, a girl named Leah, kept commenting on how still everything felt. "It's like the air's holding its breath," she said, laughing nervously into the lens. Her laugh echoed longer than it should have. They hiked to the ridge where Daniel Hurst's campsite had once been found. The grass was overgrown, the air heavy with moisture. Nothing unusual until they checked their microphones. The audio meters flickered constantly, even in silence. No wind, no movement, yet something registered, a faint static hum that rose and fell every few seconds, almost like breathing. They brushed it off, calling it interference. But when they reviewed footage an hour later, one clip caught their attention. The camera had recorded Leah humming quietly to herself as she adjusted a tripod. Then, faintly, another voice joined in, same melody, half a beat behind. They didn't tell her at first. They didn't want to spook her. But as night fell, the tone shifted. Their drone lost GPS connection twice. Flashlights dimmed for no reason. Even their digital watches began losing minutes. One of them, Ryan, joked that the hill doesn't like being watched. No one laughed that time, around midnight. They decided to split up briefly, to stay near camp while Leah and Ryan walked toward the north slope. That's where the recording stopped making sense. At timestamp 2:47 a.m., Leah's camera shows her turning sharply, saying, "Did you hear that?" Ryan replies, "It's just the wind." But the microphone picks up something else, whispers, layered, indistinct. Not words exactly, but syllables, forming in rhythm. Then the camera jerks, catches Ryan's face, lit by the LED, eyes wide, mouth open, listening. The footage cuts to static for 6 seconds. When it returns, Leah's alone. She's whispering something under her breath, though her voice trembles too much to understand. She drops the camera. It lands sideways, capturing only her legs and a patch of fog rolling in. There's movement behind her, dark shapes passing just beyond the light. Then the feed ends.